bantamweight clash between Mario Bautista and Umar Nurmagomedov at UFC 321 is already gaining momentum, and Bautista has added fuel to the fire with his recent comments regarding Umar's preparation. Speaking with MMA Junkie, Bautista explained why he believes Nurmagomedov may not be having the ideal training camp leading into their showdown. Bautista began by acknowledging the reputation of the Nurmagomedov family and their dominance in the sport, but he was quick to point out that not every fighter from the camp is on the same level as the legendary Khabib Nurmagomedov. "We definitely don't think they're invincible," Bautista said. "They're great grapplers, no doubt about it. They're all skilled fighters. Usman Nurmagomedov is the champion in Bellator, which is impressive. But maybe Khabib is just that special, just a once-in-a-generation kind of fighter. Everyone seems to expect the rest of them to be exactly like him, and I don't think that's the case." For Bautista, this isn't just bravado. It's about preparation and belief in his own team. He expressed confidence that he and his training partners have all the tools necessary to deal with Umar's style. According to him, the blueprint is clear, and he feels equipped to put it in action inside the octagon. What really stood out, though, was Bautista's perspective on Umar's mindset coming into UFC 321. He suggested that Umar might be under additional pressure in camp following the recent defeat suffered by his teammate and close friend, Merab Dvalishvili. In Bautista's view, that kind of loss can create ripple effects in a camp, and the coaching staff, including Khabib himself, might respond by pushing Umar to the absolute limit. "I don't expect this camp to be a good one for him," Bautista continued. "Someone like Khabib is probably going to push him harder than ever, especially after what happened in their last fight. The mentality will be, okay, you had that problem. Now we're going to double down and push you harder." That kind of approach can be brutal, both physically and mentally. So, no, I don't think this camp is going to be an easy or productive one for Umar. Before moving on to the next news, we have a quick request for you. We're always working to improve our content and truly value your support. If you could take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon, it would mean a lot to us. That way, you'll never miss an update. Move on to another news. Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, BKFC. President David Feldman has shared his thoughts on Conor McGregor's highly anticipated return to the UFC and what it could mean for the Irish superstar's future in combat sports. Speaking in a recent interview with MaFighting.com, Feldman revealed that McGregor's upcoming comeback will ultimately determine whether or not fans will ever see him compete under the BKFC ban. According to Feldman, McGregor's current preparation has been nothing short of impressive. "I think he's very serious about what he's doing with his comeback fight," Feldman said. "This truly is the best Conor McGregor I've seen. I haven't known him forever, but I've known him for about 2 years, and right now he's the most focused I've ever seen him. He's training hard, staying disciplined, and doing everything that I believe a fighter at this stage of his career should be doing." Feldman went on to explain that McGregor still has time to sharpen his skills and maintain his focus before his expected return at the historic July 4th UFC White House Card next year. In his eyes, if McGregor keeps his discipline intact, fans may once again witness flashes of the old Conor McGregor, who took the MMA world by storm with his precision, striking, and larger-than-life persona. However, Feldman also stressed that everything depends on the outcome of that comeback fight. If Conor wins on the White House card, and I believe he will, they're going to match him against someone who makes sense at this stage of his career, he explained. The UFC isn't going to throw him against a young, hungry killer. They'll give him a competitive fight, but one that's fair for him. If he looks good and gets the win, he'll definitely fight again in the UFC. That, Feldman believes, is where BKFC enters the picture. If McGregor returns to form, a crossover to bare-knuckle fighting could be a massive financial and promotional opportunity. If he fights for BKFC, he'll double or even triple the company's valuation overnight, Feldman said. It's a win-win for everyone. Investors will pour in, Conor will get paid more than he would anywhere else, and the event would be monumental. Still, Feldman was quick to add a final note of caution. He has business to take care of first, he said. But I can honestly say this is the most focused Conor McGregor I've ever seen. Move on to another news. The lightweight division has been buzzing with speculation ever since news broke that Rafael Fiziev was forced to withdraw from his scheduled fight with Charles Oliveira on the October 11th Rio de Janeiro card due to injury. The UFC immediately began searching for a replacement to headline the event, and naturally, fans turned their attention to Benoit Saint Denis. Just weeks ago, fresh off his impressive victory over Thiago Moises at C Paris, Saint Denis expressed his eagerness to face top contenders. Speaking to Ariel Helwani, he made it clear he was ready for any opportunity the UFC put in front of him. "I will accept any opportunity the UFC gives me to fight somebody inside the top 10, Saint Denis said at the time. "I want to fight as much and win as much as possible. If somebody gets injured, I'm ready to step up." So when Fiziev's injury left Oliveira without an opponent, many assumed that Saint Denis would be the obvious choice to step in. However, despite his previous statements, his management team quickly shut down the idea. BSD's manager, Guillaume Pelletier, took to Instagram to clarify their position. He wrote, "Given the number of requests about this, I'd prefer to state right now, there will be no Saint Denis versus Oliveira in October. We respect Oliveira too much to take this fight on short notice. A fight of this magnitude requires proper preparation." The reasoning is clear. Charles Oliveira, a former UFC lightweight champion and one of the most dangerous finishers in the sport's history, is not an opponent to take lightly. Saint Denis has been on a rapid rise, but rushing into a main event in Brazil against an elite contender without a full camp could potentially derail his momentum. His team insists that when the time comes, they want him fully prepared for such a challenge. Still, the possibility remains that the UFC could attempt to sway the decision with additional incentive. Money and promotional opportunities can change minds, but as of now, the stance from Team Saint Denis is firm. They will not accept the Oliveira fight in October. Meanwhile, rumors are circulating that Matthias Gamrot might be the one stepping in. A fan recently posted a video of Gamrot spotted at an airport en route to the United States, fueling speculation that he could be announced as Oliveira's new opponent for the Rio main event. Move on to another news. The anticipation surrounding the historic UFC White House card continues to grow, and now one of the most talked about names in the sport has thrown his hat into the mix. Khamzat Chimaev, the undefeated middleweight contender known for his relentless fighting style and dominant performances, appears to be showing serious interest in competing on this groundbreaking event. Back on September 11th, Chimaev took to social media to hint at his desire to participate. In a tweet that quickly caught the attention of fans worldwide, he suggested that he was ready to step onto the historic stage. The buzz only intensified when, just last night, Chimaev posted another update, this time sharing a photo of himself alongside the official UFC White House branding. The image immediately sparked debate among MMA fans, fueling speculation that Boers could be part of the monumental card. The UFC White House event, scheduled for July 4th next year, is being billed as one of the most ambitious spectacles in company history. Set to take place on the iconic White House lawn, it promises to blend sports, culture, and history in a way the UFC has never done before. With Conor McGregor already heavily rumored to headline, the potential addition of Chimaev would only increase the card's star power and global appeal. For Khamzat, the timing couldn't be better. After a series of dominant wins, he has positioned himself as one of the most feared and marketable fighters in the organization. His presence on the White House card would not only guarantee fireworks inside the octagon, but also bring significant attention to the event worldwide, especially considering his massive international following. The big question now is who Chimaev would face if he were to be booked. Fans have already begun fantasy matchmaking on social media, calling for potential bouts against other top contenders, from middleweight rivals to possible super fights against big names in neighboring divisions. While nothing has been officially confirmed, one thing is certain. Chimaev's interest adds even more intrigue to what is shaping up to be a historic night for mixed martial arts. Do you think Khamzat Chimaev should fight on the UFC White House card? And if so, who should be his opponent? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. This conversation is only just getting started. Move on to another news. Gane is set to return to the biggest stage of his career as he prepares to challenge Tom Aspinall for the UFC heavyweight title at UFC 321 next month. Heading into this monumental clash, the French contender has been reflecting on the path that brought him here, particularly his setbacks against two of the most iconic heavyweights in UFC history, Jon Jones and Francis Ngannou. Speaking about those experiences, Gane admitted that both fights carried unique pressures, but in different ways. Against Francis Ngannou, he recalled how overwhelming the atmosphere was, not just the fight itself, but everything surrounding it. The media attention, the build-up, and the storytelling around their rivalry added layers of pressure that weighed heavily on him. It was not easy, Gane said, noting that the fight against Ngannou was a mental and emotional challenge as much as a physical one. However, he views it as an invaluable learning experience, one that forced him to grow as a fighter and better prepare for the spotlight. When it came to Jon Jones, Gane described the situation as a bit easier in comparison. The pressure was still there, but he felt more accustomed to the moment. Still, the outcome against Jones, who many consider the greatest of all time, was another tough lesson. For Gane, these defeats have become part of his journey, shaping his mindset as he heads into his fight with Aspinall. He expects this next opportunity to be deeply emotional, but also believes those past experiences have given him the tools to stay composed under the bright lights. Gane was also asked whether he found the last 2 years frustrating, given how the heavyweight division has seemed stuck in limbo. With Jon Jones sidelined and holding up the title picture, some fighters voiced concerns about inactivity. Gane, however, said he didn't let it bother him too much. For sure, the division was a little bit on pause, he acknowledged. But I wasn't frustrated. I already experienced a year without fighting during COVID, when events were canceled. You just stay professional, keep training, and trust the UFC to do its job. Now, with the division moving forward and a title fight secured, Gane is embracing the moment. Focused, seasoned by past struggles, and confident in his preparation. He sees UFC 321 as the perfect stage to prove he belongs at the very top of the heavyweight division. Move on to another news. Ronda Rousey remains one of the most iconic figures in mixed martial arts history. But as rumors swirl about a possible return to competition, not everyone is convinced that the timing or the narrative surrounding her departure is accurate. In fact, some voices in the MMA community have issued a harsh warning. Rousey didn't simply walk away from the sport. Rather, it was MMA itself that cast her aside. Rousey's journey in the UFC is the stuff of legends. She wasn't just a competitor. She was the trailblazer who forced the sport to change. Before she arrived, UFC President Dana White famously declared that women would never fight in the octagon. Yet Rousey's dominance and star power quickly flipped that script. With her Olympic judo pedigree and unmatched submission game, she embarked on one of the most memorable unbeaten runs the sport had ever seen, dragging women's MMA into the mainstream spotlight. Her aura of invincibility, however, came crashing down in devastating fashion. In 2015, Rousey faced Holly Holm in a fight that shocked the world. Holm, a decorated boxing champion, exposed the holes in Rousey's striking defense and delivered a brutal head kick that instantly ended Rousey's undefeated streak. That moment not only dethroned her as champion, but also sent shockwaves through the MMA landscape. Rousey attempted a comeback a year later, but things only got worse. Against Amanda Nunes, one of the hardest hitters in women's MMA history, Rousey was dismantled in under a minute. The loss was so decisive that it effectively marked the end of her MMA career. Later, it was revealed that Rousey had been battling severe concussion issues, a factor that likely contributed to her struggles in those final fights. Critics now argue that Rousey didn't leave MMA on her own terms. Instead, the sport itself rejected her, spitting her out after exposing the weaknesses in her game. While her legacy as a pioneer is undeniable, her downfall serves as a cautionary tale about the unforgiving nature of combat sports. As Rousey reportedly eyes a return to action, whether in MMA, professional wrestling, or another combat arena, the questions linger. Can she truly reclaim her place, or will her past defeats and physical toll serve as a permanent reminder that even leavens can be broken? Move on to another news. Charles Sonnen has once again stirred up the MMA community with one of his trademark hot takes, this time directing his criticism toward reigning lightweight champion Ilia Topuria. In a recent video, Sonnen boldly argued that Topuria should be removed from the pound-for-pound rankings, citing inactivity and questionable decision-making as the main reasons. According to Sonnen, a fighter who is recognized as one of the very best in the world cannot afford to delay fights or give the impression of avoiding top competition. He pointed to names like Arman Tsarukyan, Paddy Pimblett, and Justin Gaethje as the types of matchups that fans are demanding and the UFC should be making. Sonnen emphasized that these are the fights that would prove Topuria's dominance, and any hesitation to accept them raises doubts about his legitimacy as champion. The frustration, as Sonnen explained, stems from the fact that the UFC had reportedly planned for Topuria to face Arman Tsarukyan in what would have been a marquee clash of elite lightweights. Instead, Topuria has now announced that he does not plan to return until January or February of next year. For Sonnen, this announcement was a red flag. He argued that if you're the lightweight champion and ranked as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, postponing a fight until the following year is simply unacceptable. Sonnen went further, claiming that when a champion says he isn't ready to fight, it sends an indirect message that he doesn't believe he can beat the best contenders right now. He underlined the inconsistency, pointing to the rankings themselves. The rankings say you're #1 in the world across all weight classes, but you're telling us you can't fight until next year. Don't I have to take you at your word and adjust the rankings accordingly? He even floated the possibility of introducing an interim championship if Topuria continues his inactivity. According to Sonnen, this would at least keep the lightweight division moving forward and give fighters like Tsarukyan, Pimblett, or Gaethje the opportunities they deserve. The comments immediately sparked debate among fans. Some defended Topuria, arguing that champions need time to rest and recover after major fights, and that forcing quick turnarounds can be detrimental. Others echoed Sonnen's sentiment, noting that the lightweight division is too deep and competitive to be stalled.